Hi Legends, this is Miss Cossyleon, and I'm going to be walking you through today's lesson on the digestive system. So, this morning, if you needed to check your homework, here were the answers to that. Hopefully you did that earlier this morning. So, today's lesson on digestive system is really important. One, because it's going to have the most amount of questions on your, the digestive system will have the most questions on your common assessment. In this lesson, you'll be able to describe the function and the structure, so the jobs and also the parts of the digestive system, and you'll also be able to describe the type of energy transformations that happen while you're digesting food. This also includes any stuff that Mrs. Cossyleon talked to you guys about proteins, carbohydrates, and also fats. So let's get started, and feel free to pause and repeat any parts that you feel like you need to hear again or a little bit slower. So the main job of the digestive system is to break down food to give your body energy. So that starts with your mouth, food then travels down your esophagus, and then your food lands in your stomach. It goes through this really long tube of the small intestines where nutrients are absorbed. And then finally, in the large intestine is where water will be absorbed, and your waste or your feces will be then kind of held in this area here, which is the rectum, until you're ready to go to the bathroom and excrete waste. So here's this brain pop video. I'll go ahead and show that for you. Hopefully it works. Let's see. 1 second.
Dear Tim and Moby, how do we digest food? From Sam. Oh, why thank you. Digestion is about breaking apart the food we eat so that our bodies can use the food's nutrients. Food is broken up in two ways, mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion is the physical breaking apart of food. Chemical digestion is when chemicals called enzymes break food into molecules that your body can absorb. Both types of digestion occur in our mouths. Chewing mechanically breaks food apart, while an enzyme in your spit called salivary amylase breaks down carbohydrates. When food you eat becomes a soft, gooey mass, your tongue pushes it to the opening of your esophagus at the back of your mouth. The esophagus squeezes the food down into the stomach. Inside your stomach, food is churned and mixed with enzymes and other digestive juices, including hydrochloric acid.
So it's really important at this part that you understand your stomach causes physical changes because it's going to be squishing up all that food because there are muscles in here. But you also want to know that the hydrochloric acid inside of your stomach is also changing your food into this special slime. So it's not really going to look like food after this. It's going to look more like gook, and that's going to be called chyme.
These chemicals break down proteins and fats. A lining of mucus protects your stomach from the acid. After about 4 hours in your stomach, food is the consistency of a thick milkshake, and we call it chyme. Chyme moves into the small intestine, which is actually not so small. It's about 7 meters long. The small intestine is where most of the nutrients from food are absorbed. In the first part of the small intestine, called the duodenum, digestive juices from the liver and pancreas join the breakdown mix. They turn the chyme into a soup of molecules small enough to be absorbed into your bloodstream.
So do you remember what the bloodstream is? The bloodstream is part of the circulatory system.
Well, there are these tiny finger-like things called villi lining the inside of the small intestine. Cells on the surface of the villi absorb nutrients from chyme as it flows by. When chyme gets to the large intestine, it's thin and watery. The large intestine is actually way shorter than the small intestine, but because it's a lot wider, it's called large. Sometimes it's called the colon. The large intestine sucks most of the water out of digested chyme in a process called absorption. This step is important because recovering that water keeps you from getting dehydrated. Once most of the water is gone, solid waste is moved to the last part of the large intestine, the rectum. When enough waste piles up there, you're ready to go to the bathroom, and the digestive process is complete. The whole digestion process can take up to 2 or 3 days. Ooh. I think I ate too many pancakes.
So go ahead and check yourself. What's the best way to describe the role of the digestive system? You should have answered A. Oh, just kidding. You should not have answered A. A actually describes the circulatory system. You should have answered C, to break down food and give the body energy. Whoops, sorry about that. The structure. So this means how it's built, the parts. The main function of the stomach is to... Go ahead and answer. You should have answered A, to break and mix up food using chemicals. Your stomach is going to break up food using muscles, which is physical digestion, and it's also going to use hydrochloric acid to break down those food into smaller nutrients. So the small intestine is probably the most important part because it has these cool things called villi that I showed you in class, and those villi are filled with capillaries like you see here. So this is the way that food that's in the small intestine can get broken down, and the nutrients can enter this bloodstream, enter the blood, and then now it can go anywhere in the body so that those nutrients can get to any cell in your body. So what structure in the cell is most similar to the digestive system? And why does food need to be broken down into really small molecules to get inside of the cell? What does it need to pass through in the cell? Go ahead and pause here and make sure that you can answer those questions. You should have answered, the digestive system is most like the mitochondria because it breaks down, both of them break down food for energy. And also, the digestive system needs to break down the molecules into such tiny pieces because those nutrients and those molecules need to be small enough to pass through the pores of the cell membrane. So if you look at this cell membrane here, you see that like any nutrients, whatever needs to get inside of the cell or out of the cell needs to be able to fit through those tiny pores. You should think back to the lab that we did on the cell membrane. Lastly, what body system is going to transport nutrients? So what body system did I tell you guys acted just like a delivery man and also like a trash man? How is all the rest of the cells in your body going to get the nutrients from the digestive system? You should have answered the circulatory system. So please make sure that you understand this pathway for the common assessment. Food travels from your mouth to esophagus to stomach to small intestine to large intestine. It goes in that order. And then at the very end is also the rectum, which is not on here. But like I said, the rectum is where the food is stored. You can remember this by remembering MESSLR, or you can think of mess and lunchroom, as in you do not want to leave the lunchroom a big mess. So that's a nice mnemonic device you can use to help you. So you should be able to put this in paragraph form, the pathway that the food takes. Please make sure that you, if you need help, you can use this to help you. So you can pause here and make sure you can put the pathway into vocabulary form. Make sure you're including those definitions. So here's a question. Do you think that you could swallow upside down, or if you were in outer space? The answer is yes, and that's because of something called peristalsis. Peristalsis is not a body part that you have, but peristalsis is basically how the smooth muscles in your digestive system can push down that food. So the ability of those muscles to push down the food from your esophagus all the way down to your stomach is peristalsis. And so even if you were standing upside down, or if you were in outer space where there's no gravity, peristalsis would still allow you to make sure that the food in your mouth goes all the way, in this case up, to your stomach, to make sure that your food's going in the right direction. That food's not going to fall back down your esophagus. It's definitely getting pushed, and that's because of peristalsis. Lastly, for this lesson, you need to understand that the digestive system is able to give us energy because the food that we eat, all food inside of it has chemical energy. So chemical energy is the energy found in food. Once your body has chemical energy, then you and your cells have energy to use. So for example, if you start moving around, like doing jumping jacks or whatever you choose, that's actually mechanical or kinetic energy. So the energy that was in our food, chemical energy, is transformed or changed into moving energy or kinetic energy. And lastly, When you are moving around, if you are giving off heat, just like your muscles do when they are contracting and relaxing, the more heat you give off, you're actually giving off a third type of energy, which is thermal energy. So think of other words that you know that have therm in them. Most of them probably have to do with heat. Thermometer, thermos. Can you think of any others? So check yourself. What is chemical energy? You should have answered A. And here's another example. Miss Tapp eats an entire pie and then runs a 5K. A 5K is a type of race. So explain how the transfer of energy that occurs from the time that the pie enters her body to where she begins to feel hot while she's exercising. So you should be able to put in paragraph form the exact thing that we just discussed here. How the pie has a certain type of energy that then changes as Miss Tapp starts to run her race, and then finally as she starts to feel warm while she's running. Go ahead and put that in paragraph form on your notes. And last, here is your exit ticket. You can go ahead and pause here. Make sure you can answer all of these questions. The last one, which is cut off, should read, why is it still possible to swallow your food on the moon without gravity? All right, good luck, legends. I hope you do well on your common assessment.